2 Corinthians chapter 9. Now about the offering that is to be made for the saints, God's people in Jerusalem. It is quite superfluous that I should write you, for I am well acquainted with your willingness, your readiness, and your eagerness to promote it. And I have proudly told about you to the people of Macedonia, saying that Achaia, most of Greece, has been prepared since last year for this contribution, and consequently your enthusiasm has stimulated the majority of them. Still, I am sending the brethren on to you, lest our pride in you should be made an empty boast in this particular case, and so that you may all be ready, as I told them you would be. Lest, if any Macedonians should come with me and find you unprepared for this generosity, we, to say nothing of yourselves, be humiliated for our being so confident. That is why I thought it necessary to urge these brethren to go to you before I do, and make arrangements in advance for this bountiful promised gift of yours, so that it may be ready, not as an extortion wrung out of you, but as a generous and willing gift. Remember this: he who sows sparingly and grudgingly will also reap sparingly and grudgingly, and he who sows generously, that blessings may come to someone, will also reap generously and with blessings. Let each one give as he has made up his own mind and purposed in his heart, not reluctantly or sorrowfully or under compulsion, for God loves, he takes pleasure in, prizes above other things, and is unwilling to abandon or do without, a cheerful, joyous, prompt to do it giver whose heart is in his giving. And God is able to make all grace, every favor, and earthly blessing come to you in abundance, so that you may always, and under all circumstances, and whatever the need be, self-sufficient, possessing enough to require no aid or support, and furnished in abundance for every good work and charitable donation. As it is written, he, the benevolent person, scatters abroad, he gives to the poor, his deeds of justice and goodness and kindness and benevolence will go on and endure forever. And God, who provides seed for the sower and bread for eating, will also provide and multiply your resources for sowing and increase the fruits of your righteousness, which manifests itself in active goodness, kindness, and charity. Thus you will be enriched in all things and in every way, so that you can be generous, and your generosity, as it is administered by us, will bring forth thanksgiving to God. For this service that the ministering of this fund renders does not only fully supply what is lacking to the saints, God's people, but it also overflows many cries of thanksgiving to God, because at your standing of the test of this ministry, they will glorify God for your loyalty and obedience to the gospel of Christ, which you confess, as well as for your generous-hearted liberality to them and to all the other needy ones. And they yearn for you while they pray for you, because of the surpassing measure of God's grace, his favor and mercy and spiritual blessing which is shown forth in you. Now thanks be to God for his gift, precious beyond telling, his indescribable, inexpressible, free gift. Chapter 10. Now I myself, Paul, beseech you, by the gentleness and consideration of Christ himself, I, who am lowly enough, so they say, when among you face to face, but bold, fearless, and outspoken to you when I am absent from you. I entreat you, when I do come to you, that I may not be driven to such boldness as I intend to show toward those few who suspect us of acting according to the flesh, on the low level of worldly motives, and as if invested with only human powers. For though we live in the flesh, we are not carrying on our warfare according to the flesh, and using mere human weapons. For the weapons of our warfare are not physical weapons of flesh and blood, but they are mighty before God for the overthrow and destruction of strongholds. Inasmuch as we refute arguments and theories and reasonings, and every proud and lofty thing lofty thing that sets itself up against the true knowledge of God, and we lead every thought and purpose away captive into the obedience of Christ, the Messiah, the Anointed One, being in readiness to punish every insubordinate for his disobedience when your own submission and obedience as a church are fully secured and complete. Look at this obvious fact, which is before your eyes. If anyone is confident that he is Christ's, let him reflect and remind himself that even as he is Christ's, so too are we. For even though I boast rather freely about our power and authority, which the Lord gave for your upbuilding and not for demolishing you, yet I shall not be put to shame for exceeding the truth. Neither would I seem to be overawing or frightening you with my letters. For they say his letters are weighty and impressive and forceful and telling, but his personality and bodily presence are weak, and his speech and delivery are utterly contemptible of no account. Let such people realize that what we say by letters when we are absent, we put also into deeds when we are present. Not that we have the audacity to venture to class or even to compare ourselves with some who exalt and furnish testimonials for themselves. However, when they measure themselves with themselves and compare themselves with another, they are without understanding and behave unwisely. We, on the other hand, will not boast beyond our legitimate provenance and proper limit, but will keep within the limits of our commission which God has allotted us as our measuring line, and which reaches and includes even you. For we are not overstepping the limits of our province and stretching beyond our ability to reach, as though we reached not, had no legitimate mission to you. For we were the very first to come even as far as to you with the good news, the gospel of Christ. We do not boast, therefore, beyond our proper limit, over other men's labors, but we have the hope and confident expectation that as your faith continues to grow, our field among you may be greatly enlarged still within the limits of our commission, so that we may even preach the gospel in lands lying beyond you, without making a boast of work already done in another man's sphere of activity before we came on the scene. However, let him who boasts and glories boast and glory in the Lord. For it is not the man who praises and commends himself who is approved and accepted, but it is the person whom the Lord accredits and commends.